You see, how to control it is not discipline. You do not confine people, for example, with a highway, but by making highways, you multiply the means of control. I'm not saying this is the only aim of highways, but people can travel indefinitely and freely without being confined or being perfectly controlled. That is our future. This is a quote from Deleuze. What Deleuze is saying here is that in a controlled society, the methods by which we are controlled and monitored are no longer perceived as methods to control at all, but rather as exercises of your own freedom. This is what makes societies of control so effective and dangerous. For example, take airports that use facial recognition technology, something that is becoming increasingly more common. The more you fly, the more facial recognition data they're able to collect, as well as information about your travel habits. Whereas the disciplinary society has to restrict your movement into tight spaces in order to monitor and observe you, a society of control encourages you to expand your movement because it means that there is more data that can be collected. Moreover, it's no secret that your phone collects a lot of data. Your GPS location, audio recordings, websites you've been to, and apps you've used. And it's also no secret that this data is often utilised by governments and corporations. What's interesting here is that in a disciplinary society, the exercise of power is required to restrict your methods of communication. A society of control, on the other hand, tells you please, by all means, have a phone and use it, because the more you use it, the more you can be surveilled, sampled, evaluated, and harvested for data. However, it's also important to note that most people do not realise the full extent to which phones collect their data and use it to control them. People feel comfortable sharing their data on phones and apps because they think they know how their data is being used and that it doesn't have much impact on them, when in reality, the way in which companies and governments use this data to influence and control individuals is much scarier than most people realise. If you want to learn more about this, look into the Cambridge Analytica scandal. When someone buys a phone, makes a social media account, uses a credit card, does a DNA test, or goes to an airport, they are doing it with their own free will, by their own volition. However, by these acts of seemingly free will, we are unknowingly increasing the power that institutions have over us. This is why, in societies of control, it is increasingly simple for institutions to place prohibitions and limits of freedom from afar. We rely on things like electronic cards, internet accounts, codes, and mobile services, which can be shut off at any moment. Thus, the exercise of power no longer requires direct physical intervention. Instead, it can be exercised merely through the manipulation of flows of information. This is happening to a frightening extent in China. The country is using mass surveillance and facial recognition to monitor citizens and their actions and apply social scores to determine benefits and punishment of individuals. China states that it will allow the trustworthy to roam freely under heaven while making it hard for the discredited to take a single step. Those with top citizen scores get VIP treatment at hotels and airports, cheap loans, and a fast track to the best universities and jobs. There are cameras everywhere, and it even goes as far as what you buy at the grocery store, determining your points. Buying items such as alcohol lowers your points. Those at the bottom can be locked out of society and banned from travel or barred from getting credit or government jobs. Your phone and internet data is also tracked. If you make a negative political post online, or question or contradict the government's official narrative on current events, your score decreases. To calculate the score, private companies working with your government constantly trawl through vast amounts of your social media and online shopping data. Who your friends and family are also affect your score. If your best friend or your dad says something negative about the government, you'll lose points too. And if your score gets low enough, travel is restricted. You cannot buy train or plane tickets, and social media is suspended. China is quickly moving towards becoming a full society of control. Although in the Western world, our society of control is not yet this extreme, people tend to underestimate the extent to which we are being controlled. Consider, for example, that the internet providers collect all our browsing data, and that it's perfectly legal to sell it to corporations and governments, which it is then used to profile and influence us, without us even realising. Once again, I would recommend looking into the Cambridge Analytica scandal if you want to learn more about this. Moreover, if you or relatives, even distant ones, have used DNA testing technology, it's likely that information about your genetic code is available to corporations and governments as well. When we talk about governments and corporations using this data for controlling power, You might think that your data is insignificant and doesn't really affect you. However, this data is being used way more than you may realize. All institutions use such data for the purposes of control, whether in deciding what products to advertise to you, or deciding whether they should hire you, or accept you into a given educational program, or even making legal decisions that pertain to you. Deleuze says that we are no longer individuals, but dividuals. The origin of the word individual means not divisible, something that cannot be divided. And disciplinary societies consist of such individuals, usually assigned a number and different institutions. But in a society of control, it's no longer true that we cannot be divided. We are constantly divided into demographics, marketing samples, survey results, statistics, and it's through these aggregates of information that institutions view us as the number is replaced by code. Societies of control are all about information and data. This is all you have. So the entire experience of being, the entire lived experience such as it is a function of this interaction of data and information. Right now, our society may still be a mix of disciplinary and controlled, but it definitely looks like we're heading this way towards a full society of control.